Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it. My name is Carter Clements, and for years, I thought I was the architect of a perfect life. At 42, I had climbed from coding in my cramped college dorm to owning a global AI company valued in the billions. Investors called me a visionary, employees called me a leader. At home, I was simply dad to Riva, my 14-year-old daughter, whose laughter was the only sound capable of softening my relentless drive. My wife Melissa and I have been married for 16 years, the daughter of a former congressman. Blonde, polished, admired. To the world, she was the elegant complement to my ambition. To me, she had been the woman who carried me through failures and heartbreaks, the miscarriages that left us clutching each other in hospital rooms, whispering promises we weren't sure we could keep. So when Melissa told me she was pregnant again, I fell silent, unable to breathe. "Carter," she asked softly, touching my arm. This is a miracle," I whispered, tears in my eyes. "After everything, we're getting another chance." Her smile seemed careful, almost rehearsed, but I dismissed it. Hope blinds a man more effectively than any lie. For weeks, I tried to relive the joy I felt when we were expecting Riva. I bought books on parenting after 40, mapped out a nursery plan, even teased Riva about being a big sister. But something was off. Melissa grew distant, her phone clutched to her like a lifeline, her excuses for vanishing into town flimsy. One evening, as she slipped her coat on, I asked, "Out again? Where this time?" She avoided my eyes. "Shopping. We need things for the baby." "Would you come home empty-handed every time?" I pressed gently. Her voice sharpened. "Do I need to justify every hour I'm gone? You've always trusted me." I forced a smile, retreating into silence. Yet the seed of unease had been planted. At night, I sat by Riva's desk as she worked on her robotics project. She looked up once, curious. "Dad, why do you look worried?" "Just tired, sweetheart," I said, kissing her hair. But inside, I was unraveling. The cracks in my perfect marriage were spreading, and though I didn't know it yet, the foundation of my life was about to collapse. The waiting room smelled faintly of antiseptic and coffee. I sat there, flipping through a magazine I wasn't reading, my leg bouncing as Melissa disappeared behind the clinic door for her ultrasound. I told myself this was routine. Still, unease pressed at my chest. When Dr. Freeman emerged 20 minutes later, his expression froze me. He had been our physician for years, delivered Riva, treated my migraines, even attended our holiday barbecues. But now his face was tight, his lips pressed together as though holding back words that might ignite a fire. "Carter," he said quietly, "could I have a word with you?" Inside his office, he shut the door with unusual care. I braced myself, expecting news of complications. "Doctor," I began, is the baby all right?" He sighed, folding his hands. "Medically, everything looks fine. But," his eyes searched mine, "the dates don't match." I frowned. "Dates?" "The conception window," he said carefully. "Melissa is 6 months along. By my calculations, conception occurred while you were in Detroit this January. You were gone 3 weeks, correct?" The air vanished from the room. My Detroit trip, late nights negotiating contracts, phone calls home where Melissa whispered she missed me, flooded my mind. "That's impossible," I muttered, my voice hoarse. Dr. Freeman leaned forward. "Carter, I've never interfered in personal matters, but I urge you to not ignore this. You deserve the truth." For a long moment, I couldn't speak. The steady hum of the air conditioner sounded like a roar. Finally, I whispered, "Thank you, doctor." When I stepped back into the waiting room, Melissa was adjusting her coat, smiling faintly. "Everything good?" she asked. I forced a nod. "Perfect." But inside, I knew perfection was dead. The walls of my life had begun to crack, and the collapse was inevitable. That evening, the silence between Melissa and me was louder than any argument. She hummed softly while setting plates on the table, pretending all was normal. I watched her hands, steady, graceful, almost rehearsed. The doctor's words echoed like a bell inside my skull. "The conception window doesn't match." "Melissa," I said finally, my voice sharper than intended, "when exactly did you find out you were pregnant?" She froze, just for a fraction of a second, then smiled. 3 months ago, I told you right away, remember? But I did remember, and the timing didn't line up. My stomach tightened. Strange. The doctor said 6 months. The smile faltered. A shadow flickered across her face before she forced a laugh. Oh, Carter, you know how doctors are, always complicating things with their charts and numbers. Her laugh was brittle, like glass under strain. I studied her, searching for a crack, but she looked back at me with wide, practiced eyes. After dinner, I slipped into my office and pulled out our old calendar. January was circled in red, my Detroit trip. Flight receipts and hotel bills were still neatly tucked in a folder. Proof I hadn't been here. Proof of something else, someone else. I closed my eyes, my pulse thundering. Who was he? A knock at the door startled me. Melissa stood there, holding a glass of wine she hadn't touched in months. Why are you acting so distant? She asked softly. I looked at her, at the woman I thought I knew. My throat felt raw, because I don't know what's real anymore. For a heartbeat, her mask slipped. Fear flickered in her gaze. Then she turned away. You're imagining things, she whispered, vanishing into the hallway. But deep inside, I knew imagination had nothing to do with it. The shadows in my marriage were thickening, and the secrets were only beginning to surface. The storm outside mirrored the one brewing in my chest. The discovery came quietly, like drops of water gathering into a flood. At first, it was a suspicious receipt from a seaside hotel. Melissa's signature, dated on a weekend she claimed to have been visiting her mother. Then came the credit card statements, showing charges for expensive dinners and gifts I had never seen. Finally, buried emails confirmed what I already feared. Melissa was entangled with Frederick Watkins, the wealthy but notoriously slippery owner of a luxury resort chain. But it wasn't just an affair of the heart. My accounts had been drained, siphoned into Frederick's schemes. He had stolen not only from me, but from his own company. Funds laundered through vacations, jewelry, and whispered promises to Melissa. I knew I couldn't face this alone. I reached out to Clara, Frederick's wife, a woman whose quiet dignity masked her deep wounds. When I showed her the proof, bank transfers, hotel ledgers, photographs, her hands trembled, but her eyes blazed. He thought I wouldn't see it, she whispered, but he forgot I once built this empire with him. We planned the confrontation together. The moment came in the same hotel where so much had been squandered. Melissa and Frederick sat together, oblivious, when Clara and I entered. I laid the documents on the table, one by one, like a prosecutor. Fraud, embezzlement, adultery, I said steadily. It ends tonight. Clara leaned forward. Federal investigators already have copies. Your career is over, Frederick. And Melissa, you've destroyed every bridge behind you. Melissa crumpled into sobs, her mask shattering. Frederick's face twisted into defiance, but the sweat on his brow betrayed him. Within weeks, headlines confirmed the collapse. Watkins indicted on multiple counts, his resort seized, his name disgraced. Melissa, 3 months later disowned by her family and abandoned by friends, was left to cradle her newborn in silence. The empire of lies they built fell in one sweeping collapse, and for the first time, I felt the weight begin to lift. When the noise faded, I returned to what mattered, my daughter Riva. She was the reason I hadn't broken, and the reason I would rise again. I rebuilt deliberately, one choice at a time. I set up scholarships for children who lacked opportunity, invested in community projects, and made honesty the cornerstone of my life. Riva grew up surrounded not by wealth stolen in secret, but by integrity earned in daylight. Melissa, meanwhile, lived in poverty, abandoned and burdened with her newborn. Some called me cruel for refusing to help her, but I answered simply, actions have consequences. I will not shield her from them. Clara rebuilt as well, free from Frederick's shadow. Together, we had destroyed deception and created space for new beginnings. As I watched Riva laugh in our garden, I understood the meaning of justice. It wasn't revenge. It was survival with dignity intact. And for the first time, I felt the future was ours to claim. Friends, what do you think of this story? Write your opinion in the comments. Would you like more stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss any videos. See you tomorrow.